Good evening, OCPS families. My name is Lenoma Ellis McKay. I'm the Program Specialist for Family and Community Engagement. I would like to warmly welcome you to this Parent Academy virtual mini academy focused on navigating early intervention, a guide to OCPS preschool evaluation and services. Whether you're joining us live this evening or watching the recording at a later time, we're so glad you're here. This session was created with families in mind, those who may have questions, concerns, or simply want to better understand how early intervention and preschool services work within Orange County Public Schools. Tonight, we'll share valuable information, walk through next steps, and highlight support systems designed to help your child thrive during these important early years. Thank you for partnering with us and investing your time in your child's growth and success. Before we get started, let's make sure everything is working properly. If you can hear us clearly, please give us a thumbs up using the reaction feature. To enable closed caption or translations, click the closed caption button and select your preferred language. And while you're in the chat, please let us know which school you're joining us from tonight. We love seeing our OCPS schools represented. If you're watching later, no worries. This session is being recorded and will be shared on the OCPS YouTube's Families channel. So when you're on the OCPS YouTube's Family channel, please sure to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you will be alerted when this session is uploaded next week. Perfect for reviewing the information or sharing it with another family who may benefit. All registered participants have access to a PDF copy of tonight's presentation. To download it, you will check the information page linked in your registration confirmation email and look for the sections labeled Webinar Materials. As always, if you have questions after tonight's session or need additional support, please feel free to email us at parentacademy.ocps.net. We truly value your feedback and are here to support your family. Tonight's topic is Navigating Early Intervention, a guide to OCPS preschool evaluation and services. We are pleased to be joined by Stephanie Thomas and Ellen Catt, who bring extensive knowledge and experience in early childhood services and preschool evaluation within Orange County Public Schools. Stephanie and Ellen will walk families through the preschool evaluation process, explain available early intervention supports and services, and share guidance on how OCPS partners with families to meet the developmental needs of young learners. Their insights will help clarify what to expect, how to access services, and how early supports can make a meaningful difference in a child's growth and learning. Tonight's session is designed to empower families with practical information, resources, and the next steps so you can feel confident navigating preschool evaluations and early intervention services. Our goal is to ensure families feel informed, supported, and equipped to advocate for their child during these important years. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Stephanie and Ellen.
Good evening. So thank you for joining us tonight. One of the questions that we get most often from parents is, what is the most important thing that parents should know? What is the most important thing that they could be doing to help their child and their development? And we think this video speaks volumes.
Yes, and I'm gonna hang up the jackets, okay? I'm really rushing all the time. I don't have enough time just to sit down with them.
Being a full-time mom and having a full-time job, it's not easy. I always worry, am I doing enough with my kids? Am I doing the important stuff that they need?
is in here.
It feels very powerful.
You guys.
You already have all it takes.
Maybe I just didn't look at it that way because I always want better.
Do you put your feet in them? No. No? I know that I can do it.
Which one is rough?
This one.
It's amazing the little things that we do. We don't even realize we're teaching our kids.
You did it, Mom.
Yay! Good job.
You don't really think of brain development at that young of an age, you know, when you're 3 months old.
Okay, so we think that, like we said, that video really just says it better than we could, right? A picture's worth 1,000 words. So you already have what it takes to be your child's best teacher. And it's all the little things that you do every day that are really helping their development. So everybody has what it takes to be a brain builder.
And now we're going to give a little bit of information about what is PDIS. Our long name is Preschool Diagnostic Intervention Services, and we are a team of educational diagnosticians, speech and language pathologists, social workers, and school psychologists. And what do we do in our office? Well, we screen, evaluate, and we help staff or place children at schools that are 3 to 5 and have a suspected disability. We support the families in the school through training, professional development, and consultation. What's the purpose of PDIS? We just really want to reach out to all the families that there are in Orange County and help to make sure that any child that needs a little bit more has what they need to start their early intervention years. We are looking specifically to see if a child has a disability, which requires educational support in one of our classrooms. So that might mean that your child might have a speech delay, they might have a developmental delay, they might already have a diagnosis of autism or Down syndrome, but we work with each family and each child to make sure that they get exactly what they need to be able to access an educational classroom right here in Orange County Public Schools.
Okay, so Ellen and I are lucky enough to get to work at PDIS during the day, and we want to talk to you a little bit about early child development. So the first area we're going to look at is self-help skills. So this is one of those big areas that is really important for your child as they develop independence. So we're going to just kind of, the way this is laid out is we're going to go over some of the skills that might be age appropriate at different ages to kind of give you a frame of reference. For some of you, it might be first-time parents or you only have one child, and so you're kind of wondering, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Well, here are some tips to kind of help you see that. So some of the skills that are considered age appropriate for a 3-year-old, first one, that self-help skills of helping with dressing by pulling on and off their shirt or their pants. And then when we think of toileting, they don't have to be toilet trained yet, but they should be in process. So expressing a need to use the restroom and then being able to follow that established toileting routine that you've set up at home. As far as feeding goes, we're looking for children to be feeding themselves with utensils like a spoon and to be able to start to open packages during snacks. Demonstrate an ability to follow single-step safety commands. So safety is really important, right? So you want to be able to say no or stop or come here and have them follow that direction. We also want to see that they're showing some caution and independence in their environment. So if if something happens to them, if they get hurt or they're stuck or they need help, they can ask for those things. Now at 4-year-old, some of the skills that are considered age appropriate, so all of the ones for the 3-year-old plus these, that would be initiating and then completing that toileting all on their own. So they're not just telling you they need to go, they're actually going and they're managing those steps by themselves, including their clothing. And then as far as feeding, so not only are they feeding themselves, but they're joining in and helping you. And we have a really great picture there. A little boy, looks like he's about to spread peanut butter on his sandwich. So starting to prepare food and making simple things for themselves. And as far as those safety rules, not only just those simple no or stop, but more consistently following safety rules across settings, and can tell an adult if something is unsafe. Now, if your child isn't doing those things yet, or is just kind of those skills are emerging, here are some things that you can do to help your child grow in that area. So the first one is let them, right? So so many of these, my children are adults now, but when I think back to what they were like when they were younger, some of these things they couldn't do at 3 or 4, but a lot of that was because I was doing it for them. So one of the things that you can do is help your child be independent by encouraging them to do it on their own, encouraging them to manage their clothing on their own. And you can help them out by giving them kid-friendly clothing, like not difficult belts to take off and things like that during toileting. And also let your child help you in the kitchen. And again, this is easier than said and done because we're busy and sometimes you just got to get dinner on the table. But if you're able to have that time to let your child help you make decisions, help you set the table, little things like that with meals and with chores, that helps teach them how to do those things so that they can be more independent. You can play games when learning safety rules. A big one I always talk about is red light, green light. That gets them to stop and to attend and to follow that simple direction. You can practice that. Stop, go, stop, go. Have them follow that. So make it kind of a game, but make it something regular that you practice following those safety rules. And of course, talk to your child about things that are unsafe, hazards, and don't just say, don't touch that, but maybe explain why. Like, you know, hands down, that could hurt, or, you know, explain why that's sharp, or it's too high. Another one is learning your phone number. And this used to say their phone number, but since so many of us don't have house phones anymore, they should learn your cell phone number. And you could even do it in a song or a game, but something, again, that gives them some independence. Now, red flags, and these are things that if by this age you're not seeing these things happening, that it may be of a concern, a red flag. That's a time for you to maybe seek some help. And we're going to tell you at the end of our presentation how you can get help if you're worried about any of these areas. But some of the red flags for self-help skills would be if the child runs off. So it's hard for you to take them in public because they run away from you, or, you know, maybe you're visiting in someone's house and they run off and leave the room. They won't stay in the same area if your eyes aren't on them. Or maybe they're climbing onto high things with no regard for safety. They're climbing up to the top of the shelf to get, you know, that snack that they want, and they don't have a regard yet or understand yet that that could be potentially dangerous. Or if they're not following those simple safety commands like stop or no or come here. If they're having difficulty feeding on their own, so finger feeding, yes, but also they should be using utensils independently. And if they're not showing any interest in toileting independently, those would be some red flags.
All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about social emotional skills. Just some things that we look for when we're working with 3-year-olds is that they're starting to build social relationships with other children. So during playtime, they might comment on what other children are seeing. They might refer to something they see the children playing with, like a bear, a doll, or, oh, it's a big toy. They might go up and hug another child when they see that they're upset or hurt. A lot of times you'll see a sibling go over and they see the little baby crying and they might try to soothe the baby. They talk during their play, their meal, and other activities with their peers. So they might comment even on what they see their friends eating, or they might tell their friends about things that they're doing. They begin to verbalize their feelings. Maybe they'll say, I'm sad, I'm angry. And they'll seek out an adult when upset to help comfort them. They'll go to a certain person, they'll want to get some hugs, be cared for, and they'll often help with simple tasks around the house. So if they see you, I know it's one of those things, it's a love-hate relationship. You love their assistance, but a little part of you hates it too because it takes everything longer. And I don't know how many times when my child was little, I folded the laundry only to have him unfold it as he was helping me. And then I just waited till later and folded it again when he wasn't there. For a 4-year-old, we're looking to see a little bit more of that cooperative play. Before, the kids are kind of playing side by side, so they're noticing each other, but now they're starting to really take on roles. Maybe that's where you see some of that pretend play where one child says, I'm the doctor and you're the nurse, or I'm the doctor and you're the patient. They start to notice that their peers are around them and they develop a plan together. So they decide who's going to be in charge of what. Maybe if they're playing post office, one of them's buying the stamps and the other one's selling them. At 4, they should notice that a peer is upset in the classroom and help to try and solve the problem. So maybe they see that somebody's upset and they're like, oh, I see that you fell down. It looks like you're okay. Let's go wash it off. They cooperate with those transitions, not only at home, but also at school. And they're flexible when things change. So maybe you guys are out shopping and you had a plan to go to Target as a family, but instead you decided to go to Publix, and that's okay. They go with the change. They start to manage their emotions at 4. And when they're upset, they're able to control those impulses across settings. So not only are they able to control it at home, they're able to control it at school. Now, sometimes we will see that maybe they hold it together all day while they're at school and the teacher says, oh, they had the best day ever, but they come home and they get upset and they crash with you. That is also typical. A lot of times we do see more behaviors at home than school because they know that it's a safe place and that mom and dad will love them no matter what. And so they're able to let more of those emotions out at home. Also at 4, you're seeing that they're starting to give emotions more specific to the situation. Like, I'm angry because my block creation fell, or I'm angry because she took my toy. How can you help them grow? The best thing you can do is make time for play every single day. Even if it's just 15 minutes, sit and play with your child. The language that you build while you're playing with them, the turn taking, the cooperation, the role play that they're assigning, it's the best thing that you can ever do is just sit and play, even if it's just 15 minutes. Take your child to the park, the library, or other places where they might see other children. I had an only child, so I was always trying to seek out places where I could take my child so that he would see other children and have a chance to interact with them. When your child's upset, help them to label their emotions. A lot of times as a parent, we know what our child is feeling, what upset them. Help them and say, oh, I see that you're upset. Is that because your toy broke? Is that because you can't get the letter to be written the way you want it? And then if they do say it, say, I understand. Allow your child to help you with those chores around the house. I know we already talked about that. It can be such a blessing at times, but also when you're busy, it's so frustrating because you just want to get things done quickly. But helping them to learn to take that responsibility, I always think of it as a chance for them to learn maybe a new skill. Maybe if they're helping to set the table, that they can learn about colors and shapes and learning to name the items on the table. And what are some red flags? If they have absolutely no interest in peers, that would be a red flag for us. By age 3 or by age 4, they should be noticing the children around them and wanting to interact with other children. If they don't respond to a familiar adult, that's another red flag. So if people who are in their family that they see all the time, mom, dad, siblings, aunts and uncles and grandparents, they should know those people. And they should be able to, when you say like, where's mommy, where's daddy, they should be able to turn and look and identify those people. Next one would be lack of organized play skills. By that, we mean a lot of times when they're little, they're still in that dump and fill phase where they love to just fill everything up and dump it back out on the floor. or maybe they haven't moved past that to trying to learn to play with toys in a different way. Or maybe their play isn't what we would consider typical play, where they're just interested in maybe lining things up or looking at parts of the toys. That would be a red flag for us. Another one is lack of eye contact. If they're not interested or they're not giving you any eye contact, that would be an area of concern. Unless it's something, if it's culturally in your family that you don't typically look at everybody, then that's okay. But if it's not something that's specific to your family, then I would be concerned. A big one would be issues with transitions. And that would be if when you say it's time to go outside, or you stop one thing and you start the other every single time you're having a tantrum, that's a concern. And the last one we have is a need for everything always to be the same. And that means like the same routine. It has to be the same foods. It has to happen in the same way and the same sequence every single day, day in and out, or you have them get upset. That would be a concern for us.
Okay, so the next area of development we're going to take a look at are motor skills. So here are some of the skills that are considered age appropriate for a 3-year-old. 3-year-olds, they should be running and climbing and moving around a preschool-sized playground, able to jump with both of their feet off the ground, and then walking around and being able to navigate their environment. They should be able to use drawing and art tools to draw color and to form identifiable shapes. Play-Doh is another one. So they should be able to, manipulate Play-Doh to make creations and to use age-appropriate tools, like a cookie cutter in Play-Doh, something like that. Also, we would look to see them to be able to stack blocks and completing simple puzzles. 4-year-olds, what we're looking at is doing the same thing as 3-year-olds. So they're running and jumping, but combining two movements. So like running and jumping, or walking upstairs while holding something in their hand, or being able to throw and then catch a ball. So combining those movements. Also, they're drawing. What they're drawing should kind of progress from just a unidentifiable scribble to something that you can more recognize, and maybe things that look like shapes. They don't have to have letters yet, but they'll probably start making some lines, vertical and horizontal, things that look like letters. And also you should start to see that hand dominance coming in, meaning which hand that they prefer to do those fine motor tasks with. And then the puzzles that they do. So a 3-year-old puzzle might look like an inset puzzle, where it's very clear where, this apple goes in this apple-sized cutout, right? Or some of them even have knobs. But as they get older, we're looking at more of a jigsaw puzzle where they fit together that way. Also, with books, not only are they looking through books, but they're turning the pages, holding the book the right way, and then they also are not tearing the pages in the book. So what can you do if your child's not doing these things yet and you want to help them grow? So a big one, kind of like what we said with the self-help and the others, it's play. Take time to do these things. And you can't take time every day to do all of these things, but even just that 5, 10, 15-minute little window. So do art at home. Take your child to the park outside and allow them to run and climb, or whatever kind of facility you have, but try and work these things in. Work on puzzles together to work on those problem-solving skills. And not only is it helping them cognitively, figuring things out where things go, but then also increased fine motor coordination because they're fitting in little objects into things. So it's really just a lot of play. It's just having fun in all these areas. It's going to help them grow. Now, some red flags for motor skills might be if your child's not walking at 3 years of age, that's a concern for sure. And if they're doing what we call toe walking, or other words, walking on their tippy toes, that can be indicative of a sensory issue or some other kind of problem. So we'd want to look into that. If you feel like your child is just clumsy, they fall a lot, or they have trouble, particularly when going from one surface to another, like walking from the grass into the concrete, if that makes them always fall, things like that. Or if they're not able to stack cubes or put rings on a post, because that involves using both hands together. So we'd like to see that. If you take them to the playground and they're not easily able to navigate the equipment, if they're not able to run, or if they can't hold something while walking, all of these things could be potential red flags for some motor skills delays, and you would want to get those looked at.
And the next area is school readiness skills. Some of the things we're looking for a 3-year-old is that they just show interest and curiosity in learning new things. You should hear, "What's that?" Which is, I remember that being a favorite phrase. "What's that? What's that? Who's that?" They might ask you the same question a million times, and that's okay too. It doesn't mean that they've forgotten. That's just part of what we're looking for, is that curiosity. They should be able to attend to a lesson in a group. So if you go to the library for story time, or I don't even know if they still do it, but a lot of the bookstores used to have story time. They should be able to sit there with you and listen to somebody read a story. Sometimes if you can't go to a bookstore or a library, sometimes it might happen at a place of worship. Somebody would be reading a story to them in a group. They should ask an adult to read a favorite book. I don't know how many times I read the book Chugga Chugga Choo Choo over and over to my son. I had it memorized because that was his favorite book, because he read it every night and he asked me to read it over and over every day. That's typical, and that's okay. Read to him. Read him the same book every day. It's good for him. And then later what you'll see is after you read that same book over and over and over to them, they'll start reading it to themselves. They'll turn those pages, they'll remember the words that go with it, and you'll hear them over there reading the words and probably sounding just like you as they read it. And if they go to daycare or they go to a child care facility, they should be able to follow that routine that happens at the daycare. Typically, our daycares or our child care facilities, they are very routine. It has the same schedule every single day, and they're going to move from one activity to another. At 3, they should be able to follow that pretty independently or with just like a simple reminder. At 4, they should show more interest and more curiosity in learning new and complex things. It goes from "what's that" to "why did he do that?" or "why? Why is that happening? Why is this? Why is that?" They should show an ability to attend a lesson in a group. And answer questions. So not only can they sit in that group, but if the person who's reading that book to them asks a simple question, like who is in this picture, they would be able to answer who's in the picture. Or where do you think this is happening? They should be able to answer those simple questions like who and where. They should be able to work with other children to complete a task. So if they're working with their siblings at home and the siblings are trying to get them to maybe organize all of the art activities to make a creation, they should be able to work with their siblings to complete that task. Or if they're working with their siblings to complete a task where it might be like a puzzle together, that's typical for what we would see at a 4-year-old. The same is true in a child care facility. They should be able to work with their peers to complete a simple task that the teachers assigned to a group of children. At home and at a child care facility, they should be able to complete those learning activities on their own while ignoring the distractions around them. So maybe the teacher gave them a simple activity where they just have to sort bears into 3 different colors, or they have to sort their bears into sizes. They should be able to get all of the activities out, get the bears out, and they should be able to sort those into those groups without needing somebody to constantly come over and tell them, "Oh, I need you to get back to work. We have to finish this task." At 4, they should be able to do that on their own. And what can you do? Just like we said before, with art and with the motor skills and social skills, it's play. Play is the heart of everything, and reading to your child is another version of play. Believe it or not, kids love reading. They love hearing their parents read the stories to them. They love hearing the same story over and over again. I always say the more you read to your children, the more that those words are going to be words they know. And research shows us that the more children are read to, the better they're going to do academically in school. If your child isn't at a child care facility, then take them to a library for literacy activities. Our local library system is amazing. Orange County has great libraries. They have a plethora of activities that are aimed just at preschoolers, everything from reading a book about animals to having a little like animal farm visit the library. A lot of times they have crafts that go with the stories after they read them. They have Legos things, they have yoga activities. I think I even saw some cooking activities at the library one time. So lots of choices out there, and they're all aimed at literacy and taught by these librarians. They put it together. They're amazing. Also encourage your child to complete things on their own. A lot of times they'll ask for help, and you don't want to say, no, I don't want to help you, but maybe try it first on your own, and then I can help you in a minute. Or a great way to get around it is to just say, okay, I'm busy. I'm over here doing this. I'll be able to come over and help you in a minute. So if you just try on your own, I'll be over there in a second or two. And what are some major red flags? If your child's in a child care facility and you see that it's been a week or two and the routine has been established that you're going to take them and you're going to drop them off and it's going to be okay and the teachers love them, and they're still not able to separate after a few weeks, then that would be a concern. If they can't join in during a large group carpet time, so if it's a time when it's at the library or a child care facility when all the children are gathered together for a story or an activity and they aren't being able to work or sit and listen and they keep getting up and running away, that would be a concern. If at 3 and 4, they still can't match colors or pictures. If they have a short attention span, so maybe, that you start to work with them and you get them to look at the book for a second, but then they run off. That's what we're referring to with that short attention span. And by 3 and 4, if they have no interest in those age-appropriate books at all, that is a concern. They should at least be able to sit with you, and even if you're not reading every word on the page, but you're just pointing to the pictures and turning the pages, they should have some interest in those books.
Okay, so this next one gets its whole own section because it's such a big one. I would say that most parents that come in to see us that are concerned about their child, the number one thing they're concerned about is their speech. And so we're going to spend some time talking about really language development, which that encompasses speech. So here are some language skills that we would expect a 3-year-old to be mastering. And you notice I have the little ear there. That's to kind of show us that this has to do with what they're hearing or what they're understanding. So you see the word in blue, receptive. So receptive, that's part of language, has 2 parts. Receptive is what you're understanding. So receptively, children should be able to identify objects, body parts, clothing, and action and pictures. So receptively, that would be me asking them a question, and maybe even if they're not saying the word, they're pointing to get it right. So I said, show me your nose, and they can point to their nose. That's what that means. And then they should be able to follow simple 2-step commands, like get your shoes and your cup, or put your cup in the sink and throw the napkin away. So 2-step related commands. They should also start to have an understanding of pronouns. Me, my, your, get your cup. Spatial concepts like put it in, put it on, take it out, take it off, or using an object. Like a cup is used to, or if you say, I'm thirsty, what do I need? And they could show you the cup. And also making simple inferences. So fire is hot and ice is, okay, so they would be able to kind of fill in that blank. So that's receptive, at least understanding. And then expressively, so I have the mic to kind of cue us, to show us that that's what that means. Expressive is what's coming out. And it doesn't have to all be verbal, it can be nonverbal language, but expressive at 3-year-old, they should be able to name familiar objects and pictures. They should be able to identify familiar people. You know, if they're looking at your phone and they see pictures, they can identify, you know, grandma and things like that. They should be, when they're talking, they should be putting 3 and 4 words together or even longer sentences. So instead of just saying juice and pointing at it, they could say want juice or more juice or I want juice, right? So they should be starting to use some of those longer utterances. And then you'll hear present progressive verbs such as I am running instead of say I running. They're starting to get it, and using plurals like I see the cats, not just I see cat when it's referring to many of them. Okay, for 4-year-olds, again, we have the ear, so receptively, they should understand a little bit more complex. So not just in and out and on, but under and next to, in front of, or behind. They should also understand pronouns, his, her, he, she, they, and identifying colors and shapes. So some of those kind of skills. And then expressively, we should hear, again, those longer utterances, not just more juice, but I want more juice, or more juice, please, mommy. Right? So using 4 and 5 and even longer utterances. And you should hear when they're talking that they're not just naming things, but you should hear a variety of the kind of words they're using. So nouns, but also verbs or adjectives, like, you know, it's a brown dog, you know, that boy is sad. So using different ones, as well as pronouns. They should also be able to answer some questions. What and where are typically the ones that come in first, like, what is that? Where is he? Questions about hypothetical events. So not just what's right in front of them, but, you know, like, what would happen if you didn't have your coat and you went outside and it was raining? You know, if you didn't have your umbrella and it was raining. So starting to answer some of those kind of hypothetical questions. They also should be able to tell you how an object is used. So not just pointing to, you know, show me the one that you eat with and showing you a spoon. But if I said, what do you eat with? And they would, you know, what do I need to eat my yogurt with? They could say a spoon. So again, telling the use of that object. So some of the things you can do to help your child grow in this area, one of the biggest thing is imitating. So imitating a children's sounds, words, or actions, they like that because it gets them to take notice, particularly children that aren't maybe as interactive and maybe they really just like to do their own thing. But as soon as you start doing what they're doing, they take notice. It also promotes turn taking and encourages them to imitate you and more complex language. If your child is pointing, so interpret, that's the next one. So if your child is pointing at something like apple juice and they want to drink, they're communicating with you. So often parents say, you know, he doesn't talk. And I was like, yeah, he might not be talking, but how is he communicating with you? Because your child is communicating something, right? So by just pointing at that's saying something, but it might not have the word. So take it to the next level by interpreting what they're trying to say. So you could respond with, apple juice, you want juice. So you're giving them that language model. And even if they're not able to reproduce it and say what you're saying yet, you're still helping them. And I always tell parents, so much more is going in than you realize. So they might look like they're not paying attention or they're not understanding you. And then one day, boom, wow. And you're surprised that they knew these things. And it's because they are able to understand so much more than they can express when they're young. Another thing you can do, and we're doing this all through play. So instead of telling children what to do during play, and this is hard for adults because we like to be the boss and direct things, but step back and let them lead. Watch what they're doing, and then your job is to comment and to describe. So feel like a sportscaster, you know, like you're saying what they're doing. Oh, you've got the big truck and it's going on top of the block. So you're telling them what they're doing. Again, you're giving them the words, you're interpreting what they're doing, giving them the words, and it's called indirect language stimulation. So you're helping them learn those things even if they're not able to say it out loud yet. And this models good vocabulary and grammar and helps them organize their thoughts. Okay, 2 other things that you can really do to help your children. grow in the area of language development is label things. So build their vocabulary by naming things in their environment. So during a bubble bath, keep referring to the bubbles, or during snack time, label, oh, this is apple juice. Even like, oh, this one is close to me, this one's far away. So you're labeling things and using that good vocabulary. So, and like the video showed at the beginning, it's not, okay, let's sit down and we're gonna have language, time. It's more, we're just going through our daily activities, and it's just sort of changing up the way you're doing them. Like, remember the picture from the video at the beginning, the mom had 2 cookies and she said, which one's rough? So she was teaching that rough vocabulary, but it was during snack time. So something they'd normally be doing, she was just kind of changing up what she was doing to get the most out of it. One thing that parents do a lot, and I was guilty of it too, is testing. Okay, so if you know that your child knows how to do something, don't ask them to do it. Okay, so maybe they learned a new word. If they know the sound a pig makes, for example, don't keep asking them, what does a pig say? What does a pig say? What does a pig say? Because if you're testing while they're trying to play, that might change what play is. That might turn it into a stressful event. Instead, do something more with it. So they already know what the sound it makes. So what's next? You can get them to maybe have a wondering, like, I wonder where that pig is going. So it's still getting the child to respond, but it doesn't put them on the spot, and it doesn't feel like testing. Some of the red flags that we see and that might be cause for concern is if they're not using words by 3 years of age, and if they're not putting 2 words together by the time they're 3. If they're not able to follow a simple direction, like come here, sit down, get your shoes, so routine things that you say at home all the time, they should be able to understand that and follow it. Not able to identify familiar people, or not able to identify familiar objects. Again, that's really vocabulary. So not knowing or seeming to understand the names of things.
And how do you get help or OCPS for your 3 to 5-year-old? The first thing is trust your gut. As a mom or a dad, you guys know when there's something that you're just not sure about. And I always say, just trust your gut. Make sure that you get somebody to answer your questions. If you go to the pediatrician and the pediatrician says, oh, it's just because they're a boy or they're still growing, trust your gut if you know it's wrong. If you want to get specific help from us, it's really easy. All you have to do is call our office at 407-317-3503, or you can reach out to us on the web. You can fill out a form and we'll reach out to you. It never hurts to bring your child to us. The most that'll happen that day, if everything is perfect and there isn't a need, is we'll say, congratulations, you have a perfectly well-developed child that's developing just as they should. But if we do agree with you and we do see that there are concerns, then we're going to say, you know what? We're going to go ahead and we're going to do an evaluation just to make sure. And again, that evaluation might come out and we'd say everything's perfect, everything's right where it should be. Or we might say, you know what? We're going to develop a plan because we're seeing everything that you're seeing, and we want to develop a plan for them to be able to come to school and to get some help in one of our Orange County schools. It's that easy. So we've done a lot of talking. I don't see anybody asking any questions in the chat, but I want to make sure that you guys all have a chance to ask us questions if you have any. Okay. If you do bring your child to PDIS, the only thing that we need to get an appointment is we do need a birth certificate. We do need to see the proof of residency, because these services are available to everybody who's in Orange County, but you do have to show us you live in Orange County. If you live in another county, there are services that are available to you in those counties. And then we will send you an intake packet to complete. When you contact us, we'll send it out and we'll get it back to you. And questions, if you have any questions you don't want to put in the chat, but you think, I might want to ask that later on, feel free to email us. We're happy to respond to you. Just make sure if you email Stephanie, there is a 2 at the end of her name. You don't want to get her confused and send out a question to the wrong Stephanie Thomas. But we're both here. We can help you because sometimes you might just have a little question that you want to ask in private.
Yes. And just to piggyback on what Ellen said, I think one of the most important things you can do, like she said, trust your gut. If you are worried about your child, if something doesn't seem right, don't listen to grandma or maybe even pediatrician who says, don't worry about it. If you have a worry, we're here for you. It's our job. Our taxes are all funding it, so it's free of charge to you. So, and we are experts in the area of child development, and we would be happy to meet you and talk to you about your concerns and see what we can do for your child.
And that's it. That's all we have. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for attending the Parent Academy Virtual Mini Academy. You can find a recording of this session on the OCPS Families YouTube channel within the next 2 weeks. Please help us to improve the OCPS Parent Academy by completing a brief survey. I am going to drop the survey and the access to the OCPS channel in the chat now. Okay. And upcoming events. And so we hope that you join us in our future Parent Academies. You can register for all Parent Academies at parentacademy.ocps.net. And then our May upcoming events, we have a virtual mini academy webinar series, and I am going to also put that in the chat. Again, we thank you for joining us tonight. And if you have any questions, please email us at parentacademy.ocps.net. Thank you for joining us tonight and have a good evening.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.